1099 reporting thresholds. This is another one that taxpayers and especially tax preparers have really been looking forward to, and it did make it into the law. So under the old law, a trade or business that pays more than $600 per year of certain amounts to non-corporate taxpayers have to issue that person a 1099, and they have to send a copy of that to the IRS. So this is for non-employee compensation, for rents that are paid, and other amounts that go on a 1099 miscellaneous, and so forth. And that same threshold, the $600, is used to determine when backup withholding applies. So if you are paying amounts to someone, they are supposed to give you send them a W-9 form, they put on their business name and address and their taxpayer identification number, and you use that to issue them the 1099. Well, if they don't fill that out for you, then you have to actually withhold some money for taxes from the amounts that you're giving them. And we use $600 as the threshold for that backup withholding. The new law changes this to $2,000 per payee rather than $600. Unfortunately, this does not start until payments made in 2026. So for 2025, so these are the 1099s that we will be doing in January of 2026, it is still $600. But starting the next year, it will go to $2,000, and then it will be indexed for inflation from there. So that is nice. And this is, again, effective for payments made starting January 1st of 2026. 1099K reporting thresholds. So these are 1099s that are issued by, for example, credit card companies and for apps that process payments or accept payments to facilitate the sale of goods and services. These are called third-party settlement organizations. So this could be, for instance, if you drive for Uber or Lyft, you would get a 1099K if you meet the requirements. Also, if you are selling goods on an online platform, and that platform is facilitating the sale, they are collecting the money from the customer and paying the money over to you, they would issue you a 1099K. So prior to 2024, the threshold for needing to issue one of these 1099Ks was pretty high. They had to have paid you at least $20,000 during the year, and that had to be over more than 200 transactions. You had to meet both of those. It had to be $20,000, and it had to be more than 200 transactions. Well, starting in 2024, that threshold was changed to $5,000 without any regard to the number of transactions. For 2025, it's scheduled under the old law to go to $2,500, and then in 2026, it was going to go all the way down to the same $600 that is used for all the other 1099s. So what the new law does is for these third-party settlement organizations, for the 1099Ks, it changes that threshold back to those same levels from 2023. So it's $20,000 in payments and more than 200 transactions. If you're paying less than that, you do not have to issue a 1099K, and the same amounts are used to trigger backup withholding. This is effective for all transactions after 2023. So that means it's effective for even transactions in 2024. Now, of course, those 1099Ks, for the most part, have already been issued, so it is a moot point for most of them. However, what this should do is give some penalty protection from anybody who did not issue 1099Ks to the people who had under $20,000 and under 200 transactions. We'll have to see how that actually works. But if somebody did not send a 1099K when they should have, they would normally be subject to penalty for that. But this new law should allow them to not have to pay that penalty. At least it gives them a very good argument.